Solipsism is bullcrap. And I don't just mean your regular, everyday, grass-fed sort of crap. I mean your bulls just had a meal of prunes covered in fire sauce. But what is solipsism, and is it fair to treat it so harshly? Solipsism is a philosophical belief that one's own mind is the only thing sure to exist, and thus is likely the only thing that does exist. In order to move on with the episode, we have to really define what it means to be. It may sound like an easy question, but it's fundamental in arguing about this topic. When deciding if a movie is good or not, you probably have a definition or set of criteria that defines a movie as good. This is used as a building block upon which all other arguments are made. You could say something exists if it has mass, which is true. However, to say something can exist unless it has mass isn't totally correct. Light is made of photons, which are massless. So, a better definition would be that something exists if it can interact and affect its environment, and vice versa. The environment can interact with it. Now, this does not at all touch upon consciousness and being in that sense, but that's for a different video. Fundamentally, belief in solipsism comes down to the fact that you can't prove it 100% either way. Believers of solipsism can make the point that everything we see, smell, feel, touch, and hear is just information recorded by our senses and interpreted by our mind. While this may be true, this is a point where solipsism really starts to lose its ground.
Well, this is the part where he kills us.
Hello! This is the part where I kill you!
At least one other thing has to exist to feed us said information. Therefore, more than just the mind exists in this scenario. But looking past this argument, it still has no real standing. You can say 100% that you exist because you can think. Since you exist, this establishes that things can in fact exist. Drinking game for every time I say exist during this bit. Since things can exist, this shows that the world around you is physically capable of existing. Your sensory information is evidence that the world exists, and there is no actual evidence that suggests the world doesn't. If you were investigating a murder, would you suspect the wife with motive and a weapon, or a 13-year-old kid from the Philippines named Joshua who doesn't know what an organ is? You would suspect the person who has the most evidence towards their guilt. The same is true with solipsism. You have evidence the world exists, and only argument built on philosophy to suggest the world doesn't. As a final point, as said by Bertrand Russell, why would you try to prove solipsism to someone else if by believing in it yourself you don't think that person exists?